Spiritual Warfare Part 12, and what we want to do, beloved, is recap the meaning of the articles of the armor of God in our arsenal in this spiritual warfare that we are in. We are, whether we are willing or unwilling participants, we are participants nonetheless, and we have to fight in this spiritual warfare. So we are told in Ephesians chapter 6 from verse 14 to stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth. And we understood that those loins were a representation of the creative center of man, wherein if this is a spiritual warfare, this means then that the creative center of man is our imagination. And in Genesis chapter 10, God said that whatever we imagine, we will do. So our loins of truth, we must practice using our imagination to imagine, to see ourselves, to write a script of us overcoming temptation in our thoughts. So as we put on the armor of God, we know then that it begins first with our mindset. We are to have a mindset of victory, that we know that this armor works. Then we address our imagination. We discipline our imagination. We imagine victory. We see ourselves being victorious. We see ourselves in our mind's eye overcoming temptation, resisting temptation. We see ourselves being redeemed from this earth. We see ourselves form images of yourself overcoming, beloved. Form images of you being in heaven, touching the leaves of the tree of life and feeling its texture and seeing it glistening and smelling the crispness and the cleanness of the air. Use your imagination to help you overcome. Then it continues on with having on the breastplate of righteousness, and we understood that that breastplate of righteousness covering the heart was a representation of the law of God. Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people in whose heart is my law. And so you write the law of God upon your heart by continually reading his word. And so the law of God is your continual reference point. This is the standard of righteousness that you are to attain unto by the grace of God. This is your shield. This is your defense. This breastplate of righteousness. You keep the law of God in your heart. Let it be near and dear to you. Then we go on by looking at in verse 15, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. And we establish that the feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace is a representation of you having an experience. You having a testimony of overcoming in your life, overcoming with your relationship with Christ, and you also being vigilant. The feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. We are told to always be ready to give a reason for the hope that is within us. So we looked at Passover, where they ate the Passover with their feet on. They ate the Passover shoes on. They ate the Passover in a state of readiness. So if our feet are shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, it means that we are living in a state of readiness to spread the gospel. So you don't allow yourself to be lax in your relationship with God. You keep the heart clean. You keep the mind pure, so that you are always ready, because you do not know what is going to happen. You do not know what tomorrow will bring. And then we continued, above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And we establish that this shield of faith, beloved, is you understanding that according to your faith be it unto you. But know this, that faith in God is able to quench every fiery dart of the wicked and give you victory in every situation, beloved. So expect the victory victory. Prepare for the victory. Expect to overcome. And using your imagination as you exercise faith is key. And this is how you strengthen your own faith. Faith does not exist without imagination. Allow your imagination to bolster and to strengthen your faith, beloved. And then we moved on from the shield of faith, and we took a look at the helmet of salvation, and we understood that the helmet of salvation is you having a firm, definite purpose to lead souls to Jesus Christ, because salvation is preeminent. Salvation is eternal. It is the one thing that every soul needs. So helmet of salvation keeps you focused. And now, coupled with the helmet of salvation, we read in verse 17, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And we recognize that the sword of the Spirit pierces even to the dividing asunder of the sword of the Spirit is the word of God, and it pierces even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit. It goes deep, it cuts through the flesh, and it goes to the foundation, the essence of who you are. So the sword of the Spirit is the word of God, and it creates within you a transparency and an honesty with God. And this is what we need. We can only, in order to fight a spiritual warfare, our spirits must be clean, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, cleanses our spirit. And finally, we took a look at all prayer, and in all prayer we discovered that to pray without ceasing means that you keep in the habit of mentally communicating with God. You keep in the habit of having a running commentary to God in your mind on how you are feeling, what you are experiencing, your present emotional and mental and physical state. You practice the habit of keeping that channel open to God, because to you, your prayer is as a covering of protection. Beloved, this is how we gain victory, and this is how we must know what the articles of the armor are, so that we may be able to use them aright, so that we can be victorious. Because whether we are willing or unwilling, we are fighting a spiritual warfare. And if we have to fight a spiritual warfare, regardless of our status of participation, we must then know, as the children of God, how to use the armor that He has gifted us. So use your armor today to experience victory in your life and to quench the fiery darts of the wicked. This is the Word of Life with Andre Knight.